Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for tuning into our podcast. It's about payroll. We're your hosts, Brian Escobar and Walter William Duncan III. Whether you're new to the payroll industry or a seasoned vet, this is the podcast for you.
Hey, welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining us today. On today's episode, we are going to cover pillar number two of the five pillars of payroll that we are covering in this series. Today's pillar is documentation. And documentation really covers a broad spectrum of things. And
hmm
before we get into that, what's going on, William? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good, Brian. Yeah, just, life, payroll stuff, all the fun things that happen around payroll, man. Just getting ready. I'm excited to be here tonight to discuss this pillar, man.
Absolutely, me too, man. And so, like, I always want to bring something in from like current events and stuff that we see in real life that, because a part of this, folks, is that we're trying to connect people to payroll, right? And payroll,
hmm
again, is such an underserved market and subject that we want to bring it and start connecting as many ways as we can. So I saw a TikTok this past week, and gosh, I meant to get the actor's name, but the actor does this thing where he calls it paycheck lottery or something like that, or royalty lottery. So he's
hmm
been acting for
Yeah.
so long, right? He pulls on TikTok, he pulls out a stack of royalty checks and he just picks a random one and he says, "Hey, are we gonna be able to go get like steak and lobster tonight, or we got to go to Taco Bell? Let's see how much this check is for, you know?"
Yeah.
And so he does that little fun thing and he goes through it and it's really cool. But what it made me think about payroll is, so for this, the check that he pulled out was from a show he did on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in 1995.
Okay.
So royalty check. Now we talking almost 30 years later,
Wow.
right? Right? We in 2022, 1995. Did I do the math right? Yeah, we're almost
Yeah.
30 years later, right?
hmm
What kind of payroll system must they have? You laugh, but think about it, that
yeah.
they have to track when that show airs, do
Yep.
some calculation, and cut all. So it made me
Yep.
think about that. Like, wow, I wonder how they do that and what systems they have to keep that in place forever. For
Forever.
really, right? Especially now with streaming, it probably made it more complicated with streaming. It's like, how do they keep that schedule? How do they keep that, right? That would be
Mm,
amazing for us. Like, hey, if
to find
anybody's
out.
listening to this show that works for the movie industry and knows how to do it, please let us know. We'd love to talk about it on the show. It's amazing. I thought that was really interesting. And then I read this quote that circled back to last episode, was perfectionism. One of these lists that I found
Mm,
online
okay.
had perfectionist. I have an issue with using that word as a quality. And then I came across this quote in Ray Diallo's book, Principles, and he talked about perfection, right? And this is what he said. He said, perfection doesn't exist.
Yep.
It is a goal that fuels a never ending process of adaptation.
Wow, bro. That's a big
It's a
nugget, man.
big nugget, right?
Yeah,
It's a
it's a big
lot to
nugget.
unpack in there. And, I said this is especially true with payroll because we're never going to get perfect. You hope for
Yeah.
a very low percentage of error.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sure there's certain circumstances where perfect exists, especially in salaried, where if everybody in that company that you're doing payroll is for a salaried, then
Yeah.
yes, you could probably hit perfect and have
Yeah.
0% error rate.
Yep.
But as soon as you bring in all of these other, the hourly,
Variables.
the
Yep.
variables,
Yep.
hourly employees is the biggest variable. Even if you're salary, but you're in a sales environment, now you have commissions.
Yeah. Like even in another environment is where payrolls always isn't the one to touch time sheets, time
That's
cards.
right.
We're not the ones who normally do that to go through approval. Yes, there's some processes like attestation processes for time off and time sheets and everything like that. But when there's more hands in the pot, like too many, like you're saying, too many chefs in the kitchen, there's going to
Hmm.
be more of a chance for something to go awry. So I get where you're coming from by the use of that word with the perfectionism of being a
Yeah.
perfectionist. And I like that quote, man. That quote was really powerful because the part that stands out to me, never ending process of
Yep.
adaptation.
Yep.
Like we're always having to adapt in
Yes.
payroll. One of the things we
Yes.
said on the last week's episode was that things are always changing in payroll.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Or it might have been on the introduction or whatever, but
Somewhere in there.
yeah, somewhere in there. But that's the thing. Like minimum wage is always changing.
Hmm.
Different tax laws are changing. With the local taxes, people change the address moves. It's something that's always changing, and we're always having to adapt. So
Yes,
that thing
that
is
is.
really powerful, man.
Yeah, it really hit spot on, and it walks us right into our topic, right?
Hmm.
Documentation. If we can't prove it, it didn't happen. So
Yep.
what that means is if you don't have the documentation or the backup or the report or something to back up your move, your action in payroll, it's gonna look really bad on you because they're gonna wonder why you did that. So when we talk about documentation as a pillar in payroll, it really covers a lot. And I wanted to be thorough, and I went out and got the definition of documentation. It was interesting to read it, and it says material that provides official information or evidence that serves as a record.
Okay.
Another definition was the process of classifying and annotating text, photographs, la la la, emails, whatever. So material that provides official information or evidence that serves as a record. That is the
Mm,
documentation. But again, for payroll, it really covers a big scope of things
yeah.
because it covers not only the backup that we use to actually process payroll actions, but
Hmm.
the reports that we run, the emails that we get, the research that we do that supports some of the things that's happening in the system, your compliance. So it's not just about, oh, it's documentation, it's a document I got to save. It's not just that. It's about, it covers that reporting piece of it because payroll has to kick out reports. We own a process that creates a ton of data.
Yeah.
So we're responsible for reporting that data. It's documentation. That's a document. That's a payroll report. You further down the rabbit hole, and if you define payroll report is a document that employers use to verify a number of things: tax liabilities, financial data, etc.
Hmm.
So we keep going. That we can keep doing this, right? One
Yeah.
thing leads to another. It all rolls up into documentation.
It's
The
documentation. Yeah.
emails that you get, and now it's tough because our partners, they want to text us a
Yes.
pay request.
Yeah, they send those pictures and everything like that. They take a
Yeah.
picture of stuff and then text it to you. It's, hey,
Can you
and
pay
like,
this person?
yep, yeah, and we always tell them, and this is one of the things that we were talking about earlier that we wanted to mention is like how the use of emails as
Mm-hmm.
documents. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like a lot of stuff is communicated via email, and there's those programs out there that those management systems that help you manage stuff, workflows and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That all that is a part of documentation.
Yep.
So like, yes, there's various types of documentations, various ways that it's used and everything like that. And do you think, let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
do you think that, and I know the answer is yes, but I want to hear your explanation on it. But like it can get muddied, right? Like with the documentation process can get muddied if there's too many avenues for documents
Yes.
to come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's gotten a little better because we don't have fax machines anymore. Right now, we're in a situation where we don't have folks just walking up from other departments dropping timesheets that we gotta now scan them in and process and do
Yeah,
all the kind
yeah.
of things. So we kind of have cut that paper medium down. But to your point, yeah, if your company uses Teams and they got a chat, Slack or something like that, some type of instant messaging, and they have email and you
Mm,
have text messaging. And to the payroll professional, what I tell you is you got to funnel it back through your email. Or another thing they have now is help desk ticket systems,
yes. Hmm.
right? A
Hmm.
ticketing system, which we also manage. So we manage our email boxes and we have to manage a ticketing system, which is essentially a third email box that has functionality. So what I urge the payroll professional to do is to pick one medium and make sure you're funneling it back through. So if you get someone that gives you a text message, then either you push back and say, hey, text this, email this to me, or you follow up with the email to them and say, hey, I just processed your payment request based on the text that you just sent me for XYZ, right?
Hmm. Yep.
There's your documentation and your backup. So
Yes.
Fortunately, yeah, it does get a little tricky and can get a little muddy with all the different avenues people can communicate with the payroll folks. Some companies do it better than others, right? Some companies have their policies and procedures, their
Yep.
documentation
Yep.
around that already established, so that it maybe it reduces the amount of things. Like, for instance, I was at one place where I didn't speak directly to employees. I
Hmm.
always worked through their managers,
Hmm.
and it was really like the office manager at that location. We had offices around the country. Every office had a few people there, 10 or so employees, but I only talked to that one, that office manager that knew everything that was going on. So we communicated. So it reduced my exposure
Hmm.
to all the employees. So that
Okay.
helped keep the mediums of communication to a minimum.
Gotcha.
Yeah, depending on how your company have it structured, or depending on the rules or not, will dictate how clean that the communication process is going to be for your payroll professional.
Okay. Yeah.
What
So
else?
something that you mentioned was the fact that the use of paper trails,
Yes,
and people still there are still companies out there, even some larger, medium-sized
absolutely.
companies that still use paper trails. Like
Hmm.
they print out a document, sign it, go take it somewhere, sign it, scan it, do all that fun stuff that we used to do back in the day, versus using the digital route, having digital signatures and everything like that.
Yep.
So I think that can be a little tricky as well, because from a digital standpoint, it's already digital. You can do you have all that same functionalities. It's fillable, in PDF. You can fill out forms
You
and
can
sign
edit
them
them. Yep.
and edit them,
Yep.
how you see fit. And I think that's something that should be looked at too, from an organizational standpoint, as a payroll professional as well, because like I said, you can get a little distracted by those one-off things, like you were saying, like the help desk, and you got to scan this and stuff like that. So if you're in an organization that you still have to do these things, you might find yourself wanting to have a conversation with your management or management position. How do you think you should go about handling that? Because I know we talked about that as well, as far as like training and education on
Hmm.
pillar one. And one thing, folks, that you guys are understand is that we're probably going to be mentioning all the different pillars throughout all these episodes, so because they all tie
They
in
all
together.
overlap. Yeah, of course.
Yes. So like, how would you go about that as a manager or as just a payroll professional when you work for an organization that has some antiquated processes?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So the good part is there are a lot of powerful tools. If you got a printer and a scanner and a computer, you
Optimize your business with a Workforce AI Edge powered by Vizier. Make smarter decisions and achieve better outcomes with real-time AI insights delivered to every people leader. Explore more at visier.com.
out on your own if the company doesn't want to support it. But
Yep.
again, you have to build your business case. You have to, take that case to your boss and say, hey, look, presenting your business cases to your leaders and saying, look how much better we can do
Uh-huh.
if we had these tools. We did that successfully at one of the colleges I was at. We convinced leadership that we needed to scan everything in, and they understood it. They're like, yep, no problem. And it was a big process. We had like hired a separate company to come in and take all these documents and start scanning them in. But it's
Hmm.
not just about scanning them in, it's about tagging them first, so that we as the end user can go find it, because just
Hmm.
scanning a document in doesn't mean anything. And that's part of documentation, is proper
Yeah.
file hierarchy, building your
Uh,
file folders properly, right? We always
hmm.
struggle with it because you don't want to get too deep, and you don't want too many folders, and you don't want too few folders. It's just
Yeah.
finding that balance between enough and not too much. But again, so you can bring it to your boss and hopefully they get it and they're like, yeah, we're going to absolutely do these digitizing and automation projects. And if they
Hmm.
don't, a lot of times, again, if you got a scanner, you can scan your things in.
Yes.
We even, wow, man, I had a great payroll guy I worked with. He I always told him he should be a coder. And if he hears
Oh,
this,
okay.
he knows what I'm saying. He knows who he is, because I always told him, like, you should be a developer. Like, he was real crazy with, right? He was savvy with the computers and whatnot. And we did It was a high hourly population, it was a staffing
Mm-hmm.
company, and a lot of information coming in. We had a challenge with, I think, one of the facilities that the employee was at, they didn't have a scanner, they didn't have a fax machine.
Mm.
So the payroll person at the time, he was like, "Do you have a camera? Do you have a phone? Do you have a smartphone, camera phone?" He's, "Take a picture, send it to me." Done.
Oh wow.
Done. He didn't need the company to invest in anything. He has the email already that accepts pictures, right?
Mm.
He empowered the employee with an easy solution to get that person paid quickly. And we
Gotcha.
we adopted that. We leveraged that. We were like, that's the way. That's the way we need to do it whenever an employee is challenged at a work site that didn't have a scanner or a fax machine. That's how they would send their timesheet in. Because if they didn't send their timesheet in, they didn't get paid. You know
Oh
what I mean?
wow.
It was a staffing agency. The recruiters got really mad, but we had to hold some policy in place, right? And that was one of the policies that I needed to get up front documented. Hey, this has got to be the rule, because if not, I can't operate. That aside, so that was a really low tech, low cost, no cost solution
Solution.
that he implemented, because they would, we weren't gonna the company wasn't gonna invest any money in putting anything at that location for that employee group. It was a temp
Mm-hmm.
situation. Like, he had to be quick on his feet and be smart, and it was super clever. And I was like, oh, that's great. It'll be brilliant.
Genius.
It's genius. Yeah. And it was a time where maybe the phones they were still just on the rise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago we're talking about. People may have still had flip phones at that point.
Oh,
Serious. So that's what you got to do. You either have to bring it to your boss's attention. Can we get the funding to
Mm-hmm.
implement the systems we need so that we're documenting properly? That
Mm-hmm.
another part of documentation. Do you have proper access to all the rules and the compliances amongst your states?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you have
Mm-hmm.
time, you can go and do the research on every single state, because they all have that stuff there. Or you can, and something else your company should pay for is a membership to APA, American
Mm-hmm.
Payroll Association,
Yep.
because they are the ones who put out a great product of putting all those rules and regulations that the states provide all in one place, all
Yeah.
in one. I think it's probably online now, in the cloud. At one point, they had a disk that you could search, and you can download all the PDFs and save it and search them, and it's searchable. I'm sure it's all online now. But
Yep.
that's the documentation you would invest in to make sure that all your other policies are in place. So, see, documentation really covers all of these little things. It's not only the backup that you need to do a payroll task, but you need the documentation around the things that are the governing rules around your stuff. For instance, we just did a California COVID sick policy. The state of California
Yeah. Yeah.
gave more hours for COVID pay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great thing. California is very employee centric, and they will always do these things. They always do something in favor of the employee, but they make it it's a challenge for payroll professionals. We know it's almost like a rite of passage. You're not a good payroll professional unless you've dealt with California. New York is also a very legislative, law heavy for employee stuff. That documentation, like, we have to, again, point is, you got to know that these new rules come up, but then you have to read through the documentation that governs that rule before you can implement it into your systems,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need all your documentation together. You have to understand how this rule now translates into your system.
Yeah.
And as payroll people, we're often how can I say, the translators between, hey, yes, that says one thing in the policy, but
Yeah.
the way it works in the system is the way it's going to translate to the system is like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Spell it out.
You got to spell it out. And
Yeah.
then that leads me to the next thing, that documentation, being a good writer. You
Okay.
gotta be a
Yep.
good writer, because you have to now give this information back to your customers.
Absolutely, man.
So you have to give this information back to your customers. And if you're not a good writer, then it's going to be hard to help them understand, you know what I mean? And again, it's you get these California rules, here it is. And when they put it out, it's very legal, like we call legalese. It's very legal language heavy.
Yeah.
And if you now have to teach this to your employees, you have to be a good writer, because now you have to write it back to them in a way that they understand, that connects with what day to day.
Yeah.
And right. So now you're creating this documentation that will drive a function and understanding of a policy in your department.
Absolutely. I want to read what the definition in your notes here, definition of writing, what it actually means from the noun. So the activity or skill of marking coherent words on paper and composing text, basically being legible if it's written down. You know, because if you do a bunch of scribbles on paper, they say doctor handwriting.
Yes.
A bunch of scratches
it's
on paper.
illegible.
Yeah, you can't have that in the payroll world, because you might be able to read it. If you need to pass that information along to the customer or the employees out in the field, you need to make sure that it's coherent and legible. Like you said earlier, actually, you said you need to make your case bulletproof.
Yeah.
You need to come with a bulletproof case. Your writings, your explanations of things need to also be bulletproof.
Yes.
So you can't leave anything for legal room, like with legal documents. Like that's how some people get messed up in some of these litigations that go on, because they left some wiggle room in there. And in hindsight, they're like, oh my God, why didn't we? Yes, they left it to interpretation. So that's definitely important. Definitely super duper important when it comes to writing things down and being able to articulate those things, whether you're doing that over the phone or you're doing that on a piece of paper. Or in an email.
On an email. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said phone, because a lot of people would like to call you and say, hey, can you do this for me? I need to request a payment for this one, that one, this one, that one. And what I do is I politely tell them, hey, this is not a formal request. I'll definitely keep note, but unless you send me a request via email, I can't process this for you. Right? Now, and again, put your customer service hat on. That all depends who you're talking to. Right?
Yes.
If you're talking to your bosses or a leader in your organization, what you want to do is then formalize that for them. Take that conversation, make it an email.
Yes.
Write a good email, send it back to them for confirmation, and say, hey, please approve. So now you make the job easy for them. If it's your partner, if it's your partner on the other side of the aisle there, where for payroll it's usually HR and finance, and you're working with them every day, day in, day out, you have to set a standard for them. Hey, rules of engagement. And this is what I learned at one of my companies. They had a rules of engagement for their sales teams, or I'm sorry, their stores, because everybody was coming at them crazy. So they said, we're going to create a rule of engagement. And I thought that was brilliant. I was like, that's great. And it's just basically, again, documentation, documenting a policy and procedure, the rules and guidelines around how you need to operate with this department.
Yes.
And if you find that it's unruly at where you are, you may want to create rules of engagement. You know, what I find now more often at this level is that I'm writing a lot more. I'm composing, I'm drafting project plans and writing trainings out and creating training plans. So it's a few different hats to put on, but it all is involved around creating documentation. We created these calendars for our teams to help them, you know, the process along and stay on track, right? All these things is manual, man. I have to make them myself. So documentation is absolutely one of my biggest pillars right now, because it's how what I need to communicate with the folks that need to do payroll better. Is they need some documentation. They need reference, right? And when you have a problem in the process, you need to see what it is that you doing everything that you possibly can to support that process. Right. Before you blame someone else. We could have easily said, oh, it's the manager's fault. Is it really though? Do they have,
Is it really?
Is it though? Do they have the right documentation that they need so that when they sit down and do payroll, they can follow along properly? Because you know, as a payroll professional, we often forget what they have to deal with in the field. Your managers have a whole nother job.
Yeah.
Right? They have a whole job that doesn't have anything to do with payroll. And payroll is just a small piece of it, or it's supposed to be a small piece of it.
Yep.
So they may be only sitting down to do these payroll functions once every other week, or maybe weekly. Even if it's weekly, you're doing it once a week. You forget in the middle because you go after you spend a few hours doing payroll and reminding yourself what to do, you immediately forget it and go back to doing your job. So they need really helpful and good training materials. The documentation has to be on point.
Yes.
All throughout your process, whether it be your end users, whether it be your payroll professionals trying to function, because again, like how we said, we build a department so that it could be plug and play. Meaning, if I lose a payroll specialist, I can plug another one in, hit play, and they can start following along on how we doing things. Or they can spend a few hours going over the training materials to get familiar in how we're doing things, and then know that while they're doing it, they can refer back to those training materials.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
So it's so much to unpack in documentation. And guys, you can spend hours on end, you know, creating and building, but it is absolutely part of the job. Don't ever fool yourself into thinking, why do I have to do this? Because you have to do it. You have to outline your job for yourself, for your team, and for your users.
Yes.
And that could mean 3 different documentation processes.
Absolutely, man. One thing I want you guys to understand, and Brian, I hope you agree with this, that documentation is essential to the point that you have to consider the fact, rather, that it keeps you compliant with a lot of different things. Like, for instance, payroll record retention keeps you compliant with the IRS. Like, if your records are all jacked up, you're going to have issues with the IRS. W-2 season is going to come around, and you're going to be making year-end adjustments at the end of the year because you had an issue with documenting things. So there's this one thing I read on the internet. It says, basically it posed the question, why document? And this is what it said. It says, consistent documentation is essential for employers to properly evaluate employees and avoid liability connected with disciplining and terminating employees.
Yes.
That's just one part of it.
Oh my God. Yep.
Just one part. And then another part says, accurate documentation allows decisions to be made with as much information as possible. So there's 2 pieces in there. Consistent documentation and accurate documentation.
Yep.
See, like, so when you document something, when you have something that's documented, like you were saying earlier, you want to have those processes be consistent. You want to spell those things out. You want to make sure that your processes, your policies in place that you use to document things are consistent. And you want to make sure that your documentation is accurate.
Yep.
So in the case where you get a pay rate change for someone and they have 2 positions in the payroll system and they put the pay increase for the wrong payroll position. That's an example of inaccurate documentation, right? So it's something that we have to consider as payroll professionals. Like, this thing, the documentation is critical, is crucial to any operation. You know what I'm saying? And you got to think about it. It's just not the noun of the documenting. It's like the action of documenting something as well. So, like, onboarding, the information that you receive from the employees, that whether you as a payroll professional enter those new hire information in or you feed it into the system, that's all part of documentation. The employee has the part to play with documentation. Like, for instance, when it comes to changing direct deposits, we have a system now where Brian and I are at, where we work together at, where the employee is responsible for certain changes to their taxes, to their direct deposits, those type of things, right? So
employee self-service.
So if that employee puts something in that's incorrect.
What happens when employees behave badly? Boy, we could We could do an entire TV show, maybe a Netflix special on that. Well, Ryan and I sat down and recorded episodes for FAMA, and we asked practitioners, give us your most outrageous story. The sales leader that brings cocaine to work, whatever. Just bring us the outrageous, and it is funny. So if you need a laugh, which we all do from time to time, search for workplace misconduct wherever you get your podcast, and you'll find it. And trust me, you will laugh and cry, but you'll definitely laugh. All right. Thank you.
It's going to have a result that happens from that. So they might not get their direct deposit in their account. They'll still be paid.
Yep.
Or that direct deposit could go out to somewhere and be stuck in limbo or be returned
or to someone else's account.
Yes, and that's the worst case scenario.
I've seen that too.
That happen. Every one of us has a part to play from the documentation standpoint. Our part of that as payroll professionals, whether you're under HR or accounting, is to make sure that we handle the documents given to us with the proper care. Because you want to make sure you look at things. You want to, if you're responsible for making any pay rate changes in the system, you want to make sure you're in the right employee. You want to make sure you're in the right company. Because I've seen it happen. I've seen where somebody enters the wrong pay rate. They put increase on an hourly employee that was supposed to be meant for a salary employee or a C-suite person.
Yep.
And this person gets a check and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I just got a bonus, Christmas money right here."
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So there's many different levels of and types of documentation, and you got to understand that documenting is an action word. So there's actions that we have to take in order to make sure that these things are consistent and accurate when it comes to stuff. I know I went a little tangent there.
No, not at all. I want to cover what you have here as well, because we talk about all this documentation information, and you bring up a good point. PPI. It's documentation has gotten so important or critical that now PPI, I know it refers to our personal information, like the combination of our social, our address, and maybe even money attached. That's personal information that has to be protected way more than just an email that goes back and forth to your coworker saying, "Hey, please do the project by 5." You know what I mean? Whoa, your emails, and you got email in there too, and it ties right in. Email is not usually secure. So if we have a very diligent IT leader at our current job, and he keeps us honest, right? He really pushes, he's nope, that you can't put and you can't do certain things. He's very sensitive around the information and protecting it. And it's good as a payroll professional. It helps you understand, wait a minute, what do you mean I can't email a document full of Social Security? This is our company email. Yeah, it may be your company email, and it may be on a closed server, and it may be protected, but it's not that protected. They're not building it. They're not protecting your emails at that level. So you can't have that personal information in there. So another branch of documentation that this is covering is the what you can and cannot put on what documents.
Yes.
Where do those documents go, and what you can and cannot put on them, and what environment you're in. So you usually have to ask your IT professionals, where can I put this sensitive information? And they will provide a place for you, because we have to function that way. They should. Yes, they should. They should. And if you say, well, how do you do it without, if you can't email somebody? They have something called secure email, and it's built to transfer that information, that personal information, so it is more highly secured in that way. It brings me to one more thing I wanted to, while you were talking about employee self-service and where I would like to see this go with employee self-service. I heard on a podcast about, man, I forget the name, but they were talking about blockchain and payroll. So, yes, very interesting. What stuck was how to use the blockchain to support, and it could be used so that we own our own data and information, like maybe NFT or whatever. Like imagine a blockchain document or NFT or something like this that has all of our information, and we control who gets access to it.
Wow.
Because now it's not like that.
No, it's
We
not.
are always giving our information out.
Yep.
And now it lives in somebody else's database, in a million databases every time we sign up for anything. Right
Yeah.
now, a million people, all these companies have our data, and it
Yep.
lives in all these places. So he's
Yep.
saying, no, the blockchain could be used for maybe our individuals to own their information and control it accordingly. So if you're getting hired at a job, you would give your new job access to your blockchain information or this NFT of some sort, and they would be able to view the information and take it from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions, of course, that immediately I had a bunch of questions because I'm like, wait a minute, am I viewing only, and am I keying this in? Because then that defeats the purpose of the automation of onboarding that we're trying to get to. But again, it was just conceptual, and I liked what I liked about it. And what I liked about it also matches up with, there's a payroll system out there right now that employees can approve their own time, and really drive it. I know a lot of systems have that, but as you research this one particular payroll system, they're really putting a lot of the power of them getting paid into the employee's hands.
Yep.
So they're saying, hey, if you don't do your thing, you can't get paid.
You won't be paid.
You won't be paid. So I like that. I like that it's putting some of the onus
on this. Yeah.
and it's making it really there in front of them. It putting that on them, like we should drive that ourselves, because we get too easy with it. Oh, well, you do it. I like putting it back because it doesn't take the job away from the payroll professional. Again, as systems keep evolving, you're still going to need a person to look at this data.
Absolutely.
There's so many data points. All we're doing is we just keep adding to the amount of data that we're getting. Somebody has to run the programs to organize this data to make business.
Yep.
So there will always be a payroll person there. Doing
it's
what?
Capacity. Yep.
Doing what? Providing documentation.
Yep.
Providing documentation.
Yep. So you were right for PPI, by the way. You said
What is
protected
it?
personal information.
Protected personal information.
So basically, just to kind of break it down for what that means, there is a kind of a definition for it. I just want to read it to the people so they can understand. PPI means any personal information or characteristics that may be used to distinguish or trace an individual's identity, such as their name, social security number, or biometric records.
Wow.
So like I think that kind of explains a little bit, because sometimes when you think about protected personal information, PPI, you think of, date of birth, social, those are the common things. But there's something in here that says characteristics.
Yes.
In the definition. So what do you think that means? Because
I'm gonna tell you.
That's the first time I ever heard that. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you. So you know how sometimes with our reports we say, there's no PPI in here. They can't tell who this is. But if you know how to look at the information, maybe you can. Right?
Okay.
Especially if it's so, meaning, their name might not be there, but what if their associate ID is there?
Okay.
And what if you know that associate ID is unique? Right? If you're familiar with the data, then you can kind of use that to put some characteristics together and say, okay, this person with this associate ID is making this amount of money, and their job title, another characteristic, is this. Wait a minute. I can figure this out. This place is here. I can get to that location. I can figure who this person is based on these characteristics.
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't need their name. It may take a little bit more work and digging, but it gives you enough to start pulling on a string.
Yes.
And then so that's enough for hackers basically to find their way in. So it is definitely characteristics. Absolutely. And and these things have become so important. PPI didn't exist 20 years ago. We've had to develop this documentation to support and govern how payroll professionals, and not only us, this is like because credit card and anybody that deals with a personal information should be governed under these PPI best practices. So you always
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you always want to make sure that your vendors are handling your data properly.
Yes, absolutely. It reminds me of the story. I was reminded of it while you were talking, and I remember growing up younger, you and I were from the 70s, 80s, so back then, that's not that long ago if you think about it. It's only
No.
40 years ago,
Yep.
40 years ago or so. So I remember hearing stories about people using their kids' socials
Yes.
in
Do
order
things. Yeah.
to buy stuff, to get property,
Credit
to
cards,
get credit
cars,
and stuff
very
like
common.
that.
Yep.
And so it wasn't that long ago, guys, that
hmm
people were getting away with this stuff and using other people's information to get things. So like now these guys have gotten more sophisticated. These hackers and these scammers have gotten more sophisticated with things. That's why it's so important that we document and we encrypt and we password protect. We do all these have these different levels of security in order to protect ourselves, the company, the employee, whatever. That's why it's so important. That's why we're emphasizing the importance of documentation from a payroll standpoint, because it's so important. Somebody's life can be completely messed up
Yep.
from them
Identity
getting
theft.
access
Yeah.
from us or
Yep.
from a professional in the industry. So keep that in mind, guys. Just to let you know that the scamming industry, that's $1 billion industry.
Yep.
People make billions of dollars scamming other people.
Yep.
So it's vitally important. And one of the things I wanted to go back to, Brian, is some of the best practices when it comes to documenting stuff. So I know that a lot of our systems, they offer certain services that you can upload documentations, certifications,
hmm
degrees, teachers, for
Yep.
example, when they get those certified in the CPR,
Sure.
they can upload those documents. Should I have it backed up somewhere
Yeah.
else besides that?
Absolutely. You already know how we roll. No matter what payroll system you use, a lot of them will give you online access to their reports,
Yeah.
and they're sitting there. But what folks don't realize is, one, it's usually not forever. And if it is, they're archiving it every few years. So now you have to request access to that information.
Mhm.
And that's what I said. Reporting is a big part of documentation. And I thank you for bringing that up, because even though you have online access to all of your reporting from your payment
Mhm.
system, the best practice is for you to save down your documents, all of the reports that's being generated after your payroll processes. Save it down to your business servers, your servers that are built to protect this information,
Yeah.
built to protect the PPI.
Mhm.
um, because then you have it forever, right? That's your document on the cloud. Your
Mhm.
IT should have redundancies in place to mirror those files so that you never lose them.
Mhm.
So yes, best practice is, regardless of how long your payment service is saving your information, you need to also be downloading it from those sites onto
Mhm.
your business's drives, your shared drives,
Yeah.
your server drives.
So let me ask you another question. Because I've known people, especially in management, that I've worked for in my career, where they've had the little external
Hard
drives,
drives.
hard drives that they had personally for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they save stuff on there. And I didn't personally agree with it, because
Nah.
I felt, hey, if you're not with this company forever,
Yeah.
you're not gonna retire. You don't see yourself retiring from this company. I don't think that is a good practice. Do you agree?
So I understand straight. They would save their work documents on their personal external hard drive.
Yes. So they would save.
Nah.
They would
Yeah.
save some like payroll history
Nah.
reports on there and everything like that.
A good IT department is going to have
Hmm.
it set up that they recognizes that foreign device and won't let you save it anyway.
Okay.
But you could probably work around that, saving directly from your vendor onto it,
Yep.
maybe. But
Yep.
no, as a rule, no. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for you to have a personal device saving company documents.
Yep.
What I do say is, if you're doing your own stuff on your company computer, which people do, there's a minimum stuff. If you're saving, you did your taxes and CPA sent you your tax information and you just want to save it, then have your own flash drive to save your personal stuff that is on your work computer. Don't
Yeah.
save your personal stuff on your work drives. That I
Yes.
do agree with. Have a little thumb drive, and
Hmm.
then whatever BS that's yours, make sure it stays on that thumb drive. So
Yep.
then when you go, you're good. That's all you gotta. If you go, we're not promoting leaving your company, but we're just saying, if you go, all you got to do is unplug your thumb drive and you out because your
Mhm.
personal stuff is on there. But the other way, no, there's no reason for that, and
No reason.
it shouldn't even be allowed because now you're taking that personal information, that PPI,
PPI.
on
Mhm.
an ungoverned, sanctioned device home.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And I don't know who lives in your house. You don't know who. There could be a hacker in your crib. It could be a criminal in your house that oh wait, they know what you do. They go
Mhm.
dig in your files, and now they're finding people's social security number, people's addresses, and that's
Yep.
all you need to steal the identity.
Yep.
What I wanted to say, because it's very relevant right now, at the time of this recording, it's March 13th, so where tax season is full in effect, and W-2s are flying all over the country in the mail.
Yep.
That's a security risk. I urge you, as an employee, go paperless. If you have the option of going paperless,
Mhm.
embrace paperless, because now your document stays on your payroll provider's system. And if
Mhm.
it's one of the big guys in the country, it's pretty
Mhm.
safe. None of these
Yep.
folks want to get hacked. None of these
Yep.
folks want to have to put in the news that they were hacked. So
Yep.
believe me, they are building the cybersecurity around keeping that documentation secure.
Yep.
Use them, keep it there. Just go paperless. When you
Yep.
need it, you download it. You can secure it, you can password protect it, you can share it better with your CPAs. Hopefully that your CPA has an upload site now, most of them
Yep.
do, where they allow you, because they understand the documentation around PPI,
Yep.
and they allow you to upload your documents there. So all you're doing is pulling it off of one system and you're uploading it to another. You can delete the file from you wherever you had it,
Yep.
and you're done.
You're done. Yep.
Instead of this thing being mailed out, like I don't want my W-2 in the mail anymore. You
Like
know
a
what I
lot
mean?
a lot of people, they don't update their address at the end of the year. They move, they
Yep.
relocate to a different state or whatever happens, and they don't update their address with the post office, and their W-2 goes to the old address. And if you got some shady characters living at your old place or whatever, jackpot, hey, I'm gonna get some extra money for my taxes.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Who
I've
knows?
seen it. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought I got hacked the other day with, Spotify went down one
Mhm.
day. And I was like, oh man, something was like a few things shady happened between emails and then Spotify going down. I thought I was getting cyber attacked.
Yep.
And I was worried for a little bit until I realized my daughter was like, no, it went down for everybody. I was like, okay, better. But then
Mhm.
it made me check my Instagram, and sure enough, there was a login from Seattle. I'm in Florida. That wasn't me. So I
Mhm.
had to change my Instagram account, the password there. So it
Yep.
gets scary, man. Cybersecurity, like somebody come at you, your identity, and they can do a lot. And if
Yep.
if you're doing good in life and you're trying to do the right thing, you have a lot to lose.
Yep. Like we get those emails all the time. We get an email that says our CEO's name on it.
Yep.
But it's something to pay attention to is like looking at the email address. Whenever you get an email and it says something like, "Oh, hey, change my direct deposit."
Yeah.
When your company has the
Employee
availability
self-service.
of employee self-service,
Yep.
and you get an email saying, "Hey, change my direct deposit," you want to look at that and don't open it. Don't open it.
Yeah,
So
don't
you
open it. You
wanna
forward
pay
it right to your
yeah.
forward it right to IT and say this is a scam, this is fraud alert,
Yeah.
and that's it. And I've had situations in the past where people, you working and you're so in a hurry
Yep.
that they didn't read deeply into the email and they sent
Mhm.
money out.
Yep.
And so that's worked. And think about it, like you just said, it's $1 billion industry. It's a numbers game. If they're sending out 1 million emails a day and
Mhm.
one of them ping, one of them
Yeah.
works, boom, you just made however many $100 for just sending out 1 million emails today.
Yeah.
How long did it take you, right?
Yeah. I can personally attest to it because, and I hope he doesn't kill me for, I'm not gonna mention any names,
There
but
you
my
go.
girlfriend, a partner of my girlfriend, like one of her parents got hacked like that.
Yeah.
They got a call or email saying, "Hey, your computer's been hacked. You're in
Yes.
trouble.
Yes.
Give me remote access to your computer." And they give them the IP address. They log in and they charge them thousands of dollars to quote unquote fix their computer. And the same thing keeps happening year after year.
Oh.
So I know we went down a rabbit hole here with that,
No,
but
but
like,
it
you
all
know,
it all
yeah,
leads back to documentation
yeah,
and why it's so important to have your procedures documented, have
hmm
rules around again what you're documenting, where you're sending it, who's getting what, if you have a documented procedure in place for direct deposit, then you know that email coming through is nonsense. And if you look
yeah,
at it, a lot of times it's not from the company's email. If it's fraudulent, it's not. They don't even make an effort to like make it look like it came from a company email.
hmm
They often just are lazy with it because people don't look at it. Now I just
yeah,
delete them. I straight delete them. The IT already, has something in place, and he's like, yeah, just delete, no worries, and that's it. We don't even bother. But it's I get them every week from all different names, and they
yeah,
know exactly what names to use
hmm
because they must be looking at our email traffic and they realize what names are frequently sending to payroll.
yeah.
So I'm going to use those same names thinking that they won't pay attention to the email and just do it.
Hi, I'm George LaRock, and I'm looking forward to exploring the critical trends shaping the future of work and technology with you over on the Work Tech podcast. Now, this podcast is a little different. I bring together industry leaders, innovators, and investors, and we go deep into market intelligence that matters to HR pros and tech providers alike. So give the Work Tech podcast a listen here on the Work Defined Podcast Network, and please subscribe if you like it. See you there.
And sometimes that happens, but that brings me to a really good rule for payroll
hmm
and we'll end it on that note for documentation for the second pillar. This is why documentation is so important, but I'll leave you with a little bit of a nugget and it's trust but verify. Especially with payroll, you're going to get employees, "Hey, I didn't get my check."
hmm
"Really? Cuz I see here it was cashed."
Yep.
"Really? Oh man, you know what? I must have forgot that. Thanks." And you
I didn't
never
get my
know.
deposit. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw it as a direct deposit. "Oh really? Oh man, sorry, I forgot." And
Mhm.
a lot of times you don't know if they really making a mistake, if there's oversight on their end. The
Yeah.
New Yorker in me is, you were trying to double dip. You were
Yeah.
trying to pull a fast one. You know what I mean? And
hmm
I have I have an idea for a quick show on little things like that for payroll professionals to look out for.
Yeah.
Be more skeptical, trust but verify, have your documentation in order. It's
hmm
critical to our profession, our craft. Like to be a good payroll professional, you
Yeah.
must have master the many facets of documentation, reporting, writing, backup, saving files properly, record
Yeah.
keeping. We could go down a rabbit hole on how many years each records need to be kept for payroll.
Yes.
And
hmm
my best practice tip there is figure out where you're because it's also state by state for documentation for record
hmm
keeping. Figure out where it is that you have to keep the longest and then default to that across the board,
Yeah.
because then you don't want then you're gonna create a whole nother management system of documentation and reporting to keep by state. Nobody has time for
Absolutely.
that. Like,
Yeah.
you know it's all
Anybody
digital
got time?
now, so unless you're managing a physical
hmm
file warehouse, which I've been a part of. I've been a part of going to warehouses and purging data that was too old because it's like,
hmm
hey, we're paying for storage space. If we could get rid of a few hundred square feet of storage, it'd be great. We've done that. Or at one of the colleges I was at, like they literally had like in the archives down in the basement. It was such an old school, like old building. It was like amazing. But anyway, unless you have a physical paper
Yeah.
to manage, you know, just default it to your longest one because again, part of documentation is record keeping. And if you
Absolutely.
need to learn more, go ahead and just Google payroll record keeping. There's a lot of resources out there on how long to keep each document, each category. IRS has its record keeping rules. Each
Yes.
state has its record keeping rules.
Yep.
Each function has a record keeping rule. You know,
hmm
what records you do have to keep and how long. Forget about it. So, but
Yep.
that just please know that falls under documentation, record keeping, your
Yes.
reports that you need to back up what you do if you get audited, right? Why it's important to pull it down from your payroll system, because what if your company decides to change payroll
Yeah.
systems? Guess what? The provider charges you for all of that data and history. If you haven't saved it already, now you
hmm
got to pay for it. When it was
Yep.
free, now you got to pay for it because your company's moving off of them and they need the data. So
Don't
be
cost
sure.
your company money.
Yeah, it's going to cost your company money. Be on top of it. Save your reporting down. Again, because documentation covers that record keeping, that reporting, the where you're saving your files, what you're putting on what document and where you're sending it, where, what,
Yep.
how, and the wheres and all this. So all that to say, just to circle back, for documentation is a critical piece for our craft.
Yep.
Go ahead and do the research.
One thing I did want to say before we end, when it comes to PPI and encrypting documentation, please be sure to make it somewhat sophisticated with the password. Just don't do a simple 1 2 3 4 or anything like that. These hackers are supremely talented and can hack into that stuff. So you want to just use a combination of numbers, letters, symbols, or whatever you need to.
Yes.
When you password protect something. Okay, guys.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a best practices for passwords.
Yep.
That is absolutely part of it. You know what I mean? Google it. Best practice for passwords. Because, like, to your point, Walt, a lot of people are really lazy with it. Password 1 2 3. You know how many people leave their password as password?
Yeah.
Like, these folks are getting hacked. And Google tells you, folks, Google even tells you right now, hey, your passwords across so many things are the same one. Change it. Be careful. So listen to all that. Because, again, they're trying to protect your documentation, your PPI. They're trying to protect that. And if you're silly and a little careless with it, you're gonna get hacked. Your identity is gonna get stolen here and there.
You try not to use your PPI as the password.
For real, yes.
Don't put my date of birth as my password.
Let me put my social as my password.
Yep.
Great.
No, nobody's gonna know my social.
Guys. No, yeah, don't. Oh, you know what? And I'll leave you with a little quick funny story. When I first started in IT for a little while, I was a Unix operator overnight, and it was kind of my first serious IT situation, corporate job, whatever. And they were teaching me things, and they gave me a username and password. I wrote it on a sticky, and I put it right on my screen.
Oh, no.
You see, you already know. My boss sent me an email the next day and said, hey, I noticed you had your password and your username on your screen. You cannot do that. And went on to teach me why that was a wrong move. And I was like, oh, okay. Your passwords should be unique to you. It keeps your documentation safe.
Yes.
So, yeah, folks, just be safe with all your information in payroll. Don't fool yourself. Documentation is important. Backup, building it. I mean, we're going through an extensive exercise right now where we're trying to document how we will organize all of the documentation. That's a mouthful, right? We're trying to, but this is how important it is, because we're writing, we have to keep this information organized. There's a lot of moving pieces all the time in payroll, and you have to. We're always what I'm finding myself at now is just like, wait a minute, how do we keep this all organized? How do we make sense of it? And how do we find what we need going forward when we need to refer back to one of these documents for something?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? There's a lot of rules changing, different policies being updated, and payroll has to keep track of that. You have to keep track of, hey, on this day, we changed the way we do things because of this new rule. Yeah. Whether it be sent out by the state or your boss, you as a payroll professional have to keep that documentation so that you can refer back. And again, you want to plug and play. So you want to put it somewhere where if you plug somebody else in, they can easily look back and say, oh, that's why we do things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So incredibly important, folks. And we could spend a lot more time with documentation. But again, it's a key pillar. Keep doing the research, keep learning, and we'll keep giving you more, guys.
Yes. All right, everyone. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for joining us today on our podcast, It's About Payroll. We're your hosts, Brian Escobar and William Duncan. And until the next time, folks, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.